Greetings and salutations, creature lovers. This is Mr. Venom welcoming you to No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts, episode number 46. Before we introduce this month's movie, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host. Coming to us from Fresh Cuts and the Horror Countdown podcast, it is Mr. Don Anelli. How you doing, Don?
Screonk, everyone.
Yes, love it. And also joining us from the main show, No More Room in Hell, it is Mr. Derek B. How you doing, Derek?
You know, I'm driving this Gatango everywhere.
The Gatango. I forgot. All right, folks. Well, if Don's greeting and Derek's quote didn't clue you in on what we're doing this month, I'm going to go ahead and let Derek introduce it, as this is his pick. So, Derek, why don't you tell the folks what we're talking about this month?
Well, I went with like a very divisive movie in the Godzilla community and the giant monster community. You either love it or you hate it, or maybe there's some things that you like about it. But this one's very divisive throughout like years of reviewing it and listening to people review it over the years, and that is Ryo Kitamura's Godzilla Final Wars.
We're in the square looking up at the UFO. The atmosphere here is quite incredible.
And we're really excited to have an alien as our guest on the show today.
All this stuff about aliens and outer space, the media are to blame.
Our weapons and science are far superior to anything you have. The monsters are under our control.
I like to play the odds. You want to try?
Resistance is useless. We shall destroy their civilization.
We don't know who we can trust.
Well, I can think of one person who I'm pretty certain is still trustworthy.
Captain Gordon.
Oh, shit.
This time you won't be able to escape court-martial.
You know what we just went through?
They still have their toy, do they?
I'm gonna kick that alien kid's ass.
Ooh.
There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me. And the other is Godzilla. Most effective weapon on Earth.
Right, it's your turn.
Yes, sir!
Well, now let's enjoy the main event. The last chapter in the Godzilla saga.
You decide how to use your power. whether it's for good or evil.
The world is ruined, and the war is already lost. It's whether we die hiding or die fighting. This final mission will decide the fate of the human race. This is Operation Final War.
Right off the bat, you know, like when you hear Ryo Kitamura, you're like, oh boy.
Of course, for those who don't know, Ryuhei Kitamura, he is, of course, the director of Versus, Downrange, and did he direct Killers as well?
No, that was a Mo Brothers movie.
No? Am I
Yeah.
thinking of somebody else?
But for like the horror fans, he probably
More likely, Midnight Meat Train would be the big one.
yeah, Clive Barker adaptation.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Cool. All right. So, of course, Ryuhei comes to us with a great pedigree. This is his first kaiju film, to my knowledge, after doing a lot of very weird horror / martial arts films like the aforementioned Versus, which I absolutely adore. I love Versus with a passion. I'm sure I'm not the only one on this show that loves it. So, but I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. So, as Derek said, our movie this month is, of course, Godzilla Final Wars, coming to us from 2004. This is the 50th?
Yeah, it's
50th.
54.
Sorry, 50th. 54. So it is our
50.
50th anniversary film. Of course, for those who remember the film, this is as Derek already mentioned, a very divisive one with lots of different kaiju in it, including a certain hated American kaiju, which we'll talk about in a little bit. This movie comes to us with a rating of PG-13. It is 2 hours and 5 minutes, a 2 hour plus Godzilla film. Not that I'm going to complain. And our synopsis is as follows. Godzilla's 50th anniversary project, in which Godzilla travels around the world to fight his old foes and his allies, plus a new mysterious monster named Monster X. Wonder who that is. All right. Well, folks, I am going to go ahead and turn the mic over to the man who picked the film, Mr. Derek B. So, Derek, why don't you go ahead and give us your general thoughts on Final Wars?
So when I first seen this movie as a younger adult, I was like, just when you see like the fucking Gotengo in the beginning with God's fighting Godzilla, that's kind of like because I just recently watched Atragon for the first time when I first seen this movie. So I was kind of like, whoa, holy shit. Like kind of nerding out. And plus you got like all those like little cameos from like Heisei era fucking Godzilla actors in it. Like the one main dude that was the captain was like in like all the Heisei movies. He was like the general. Yeah, it's a cool setup. You know, like you get taken back because you have like this weird, like angelic, like music playing in the background during the battle too. Going back to it this viewing, you could see like I could see like why people would not like this movie. It's very it kind of emulates a certain other movie from the early 90s / late like 90s to like early 2000s. The Matrix. Yeah. There's a lot of Matrix you know, he must have loved the Matrix when he was making this movie, but there's a lot of that going on. And, you know, like some of the like the human characters are very cartoon. You could tell like Ryo loved like a certain like era of Godzilla movies, and it's definitely like the 70s era. It's a very like 70s era based like Godzilla movie, especially when you fucking add fucking Manila in there. But there's some things I still love about this movie. I love the redesign of Gigan. It's very like it's like, hey, what if H.R. Geiger designed Gigan? You get some cool things and aspects of it. I actually like a lot of like the musical score of this movie, especially it was kind of mind blown that I found out Keith Emerson did the soundtrack. I was like, Wow, Emerson, Lake, and Palmer, I'm a huge fan of. So I was like, that was kind of a cool thing. Yeah, it's kind of overlong in some of the aspects. It's very cartoony, and some of the the action scenes are very outdated for the time period. Even like the monster stuff in it, I wish there was more of it in the movie because when Godzilla is wrecking shop, it's like a 10-minute montage, and you kind of want like some of those huge battle scenes that you do get in like other Godzilla movies. I think like for like a newer like I would show this to like my nephew and he would probably fucking love the shit out of it because it's spontaneous. There's a lot of action going on, a lot of cool looking monsters that he could relate to and stuff like that. Some of the worst American actors are in this movie though. Like this whole scene that takes place in New York where Rodan fucking like that pimp and the cop, that was like one of the worst acting scenes I ever seen in a movie. I'm fine with it. Is it perfect? By no means at all. But I still have some entertainment with it, especially with some of like the action. I love like this whole idea of like these like giant space fucking kaiju killing machines. I wish there was more of that in movies. But other than that, yeah, it's a cool movie.
All right, cool. Thank you, Derek. So, Don, why don't you come on in here and give us some general thoughts on Godzilla Final Wars?
So I didn't know that this one actually existed for, I wouldn't say quite a while, but I wasn't aware of it until I think 2005 or 2006. I ended up getting the films on DVD for Christmas. I think I ended up getting this with the two Millennium Mechagodzilla movies, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS. I think I ended up getting all three of them for Christmas that year on DVD, even though I didn't know anything about them. The most recent one that I was aware of when I first saw it was GMK. I think that was the last one that I was aware of. I kind of fell out of Godzilla around 2000, 2001 just because most of it was through G-Fan, the old Godzilla fanzine. And then I had to stop it because it was getting a little too expensive and I was trying to save up for college at the time. So I kind of fell out of it. And I didn't know that the series, I assumed that the series continued for several years, but I wasn't aware of anything, what the movies actually were. Until I actually picked these up and I looked at the release dates and realized, oh, these are the missing films. I didn't know that they were around. So yeah, I ended up getting this and then like I said, the two Mechagodzilla movies for Christmas, and I liked it a little bit when I first saw it. I thought it was okay. I was definitely one of those that I liked parts of it, but it was one of those where the length was kind of like the one issue where I never really wanted to revisit it just because it was always the longest one and it was always the one that would always take up the most time to watch. And, I always wanted to, get to the other stuff, more. So it was never a film that I was really into a lot growing up compared to some of the other Godzilla movies. The Millennium Series was always one that I was never really big on just because I didn't have a lot of experience or exposure to them compared to, the Showa or the Heisei series. So yeah, the Millennium ones are always the ones that I always, if I'm ever going to go back and revisit them, those are the ones that I tend to revisit the most just because I don't have, 50, 60 watches by the time I'm 10, like I do with some of the others. But yeah, for this one, God, this movie flat out sucks. And I'm going to say this. I still would want to revisit maybe one or two more just to finalize where I stand. But this is, at best, the third worst entry in the franchise, and at worst, the second worst entry in the franchise. Good God, this movie's terrible. I really hate saying that just because it's Godzilla, but yeah, there's just not a lot of good here. I will say, I'll start off with the positives. The central story isn't bad. I think there's something you could have done, a lot better for sure, but I do like the central idea, not the alien invasion plot. I mean, I I can probably name, I mean, we can all name, 20 entries in the series that have done alien invasion stories before this one. It's not that original, but I like the mutant storyline, the secondary one, and I think it brings up some, it brings up, a lot of obvious Matrix imitations. The ideas in content, the content behind it isn't bad. I do like the shootouts, the car chase through, Tokyo. I do think that they're fun content wise, but that leads me into the series of negatives that I have with this, in that the tone of it doesn't fit Godzilla. Godzilla is not that kind of high energy, glossy, CGI laden, stunt work. That's not the kind of film that Godzilla's always been. He's always been more human, more grounded, more, for lack of a better term, more grounded in reality for, what's always been, this 500, this 200-foot tall fire breathing dinosaur. The tone of it just meshes incredibly oddly with the Godzilla stuff. And when we get the Godzilla stuff, there's just not a whole lot there. He shows up, smashes into his enemies, and then they die in 5 seconds. The longest fight we get is the 3-way, or I should say 4-way, with Anguirus, King Caesar, and Rodan. And even that's not that interesting. The fights are choreographed at the wrong angle. Everybody just looks like they're moving around in rubber suits. It doesn't have that old school slowed down motion, so everything looks like it's, taking place with these really heavy lumbering creatures moving around. It just looks like a live action Ultraman show, and it has the wrong tone. It has the wrong feel. I don't hate the Godzilla design, but I'm not a huge fan of it. It looks a little awkward and bulky, but he is miles ahead of the just god awful redesigns on so many of the old creatures. I mean, I absolutely love the idea of bringing Anguirus back, but that thing just looks ridiculous. The redesign on him is atrocious. Rodan. I mean, he's gonna look good regardless, but I'm not really a fan. King Caesar, one of my all-time favorite creatures, just looks like a misshapen mess. And so many of the other creatures are just, they're formulaic blobs that vaguely resemble something, but they're dispatched in such quick time that you don't get a chance to really savor what kind of design that they have. You're shuttled off into the next sequence so quickly that you don't get a chance to really revel in the spectacle that it's trying to create. And it's just so tonally whiplash, and you're jarred all over the place. And the story to this just brings up 10 different plot points and then just discards them with reckless abandon. I mean, yeah, it's nice that we get a shout out to Gorath, which is one of the, cooler scenes in the film, but the whole thing is dropped in 10 minutes and, we're off to the next one. And then, it brings up this one plot point, then it drops that in 5 minutes. And yeah, the whole thing is just all over the place. I can never get a consistent tone right. It can never get a consistent feel down. And then the stuff that we do get is just stuff that's not tonally Godzilla. It just feels off. And it looks impressive when you're just trying to look at it, again, like a content point of view. But for the most part, there's just so little here. And there's just so many other films that I have more fun with that take less time to finish, because this thing really drags and it really feels its weight at times. Yeah, this one's, like I said, either at best third worst or at worst second worst film of the franchise. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, for me, I'm going to say that I've done a complete 180 on this movie. When I first saw it, and I probably saw it within a year or two of its Japanese release, but when I first saw it, I was right there with Don. I just hated this movie. Derek's mention of the Matrix is very poignant, because I actually thought that when I first saw it. I thought this is the Matrix meets a kaiju movie, and I'm not sure if I'm down for it. Especially coming off of Tokyo SOS, which is considered one of the best Godzilla movies ever. So it definitely, if I was watching these movies like first run in theaters, I would have been incredibly disappointed with Final Wars based on just how great the movie before this one was. But I will say that as I've aged and as I've kind of accepted the fact that not every Godzilla movie is going to be 1954. Not every Godzilla movie is going to be Godzilla -1. These big emotional stories with great human characters and great kaiju action. You're not always going to get that. And right around like probably the late 2000s, I started to just accept that Godzilla can be fun. And that's when I started to develop an appreciation for stuff like Godzilla versus Gigan, Godzilla versus Megalon, and some of the lesser Godzilla films. So now I watch Final Wars and it's just a popcorn movie to me. Like, I barely consider this canon, in all honesty. I mean, I know it's a Toho movie, so it is canon, so I'm okay with that. But I barely consider it canon just because of, the biggest star in here is an American in a Godzilla movie. Maybe not the biggest star, but at least to us Americans, the most recognizable person in this movie is going to be Don Fry. I can accept the quick fights. I can accept the fact that this has a very, very detailed human story. Like, the human story in this one takes up a lot of this 2 hour and 5 minute runtime. And usually I would have a lot more of an issue with that. But very much like Godzilla -1, I actually kind of cared about the human story on these last few watches, over the last few years watching this one, because, like I said, it's just fun. Like I said, I accept it now as a popcorn movie, and I have a great time with it. Is it a great Godzilla movie? No, of course not. Is it a top 10, top 20, even top 30 Godzilla movie? No, not at all. But like I said, as I've aged, I can just accept that some Godzilla properties are going to be more fun than others. Kind of like the Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s. That's another one that I hated the first time I saw it. Like, when that aired, I did not like it. I mean, granted, I was already almost out of high school by the time that cartoon was airing on television. One? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just didn't do a lot for me. I just, because I was already a hardcore Godzilla fan when that aired. And I don't know, I felt like they were Americanizing the character, kind of turning him too much into a hero. And I just, it just didn't work for me for whatever it's worth. But the Final Wars, just like the cartoon, I've warmed up to. I've accepted the fact that, okay, it's not Toho's greatest hour by any stretch, but it's still a very fun movie done by a fun director, a director who knows how to have fun, with his films. Whether it's horror, martial arts, or kaiju, he makes a good film. And even later on, like, I famously adored Downrange. I think I rate that one higher than almost anybody else that I've spoken to. I absolutely love that. It's a very basic movie. I mean, it's a single location for the whole movie, and I know that kind of bothers a lot of people. A lot of people kind of call it dull. I absolutely thoroughly loved it, but that's a conversation for another podcast. So, which we've already recorded years ago, because we actually did review Downrange on Fresh Cuts way back when it came out. So, look for that episode. Still. Yeah. It was probably still just the movies. Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, back to Final Wars. I can accept it. I shut my brain off. I don't accept it as canon. I just have fun with Captain Douglas Gordon, played by Don Fry. And by the way, Don Fry is not the only MMA connection with this movie. For those of you who are familiar with the movie, there's a scene in Antarctica when they go to thaw out Godzilla.
Oh, yeah, the two guys at the base.
Yeah. That's Ray Sefo and Gary Goodridge, two of the early pioneers of mixed martial arts. In fact, Gary Goodridge pulled off the very first crucifix in UFC history. For anybody who's not up on their fighting, a crucifix is basically when a fighter pins his opponent's arms they pin one of his arms down with their legs and then one of their arms down with like their left hand, leaving their head exposed, and they can't protect themselves because their hands are pinned. And basically you can just wail on them unfettered. Like there's no way to block it. And usually when a fighter gets caught in a crucifix, the fight's over because the ref is going to stop it after about 3 or 4 unprotected punches to the face. So yeah, Gary Goodridge has a little bit of notoriety. For those who don't know, he's the black guy. I hate to bring up color, but just to point him out, Gary Goodridge is the black dude, and then Ray Sefo is an Australian kickboxer who is actually a 6-time Muay Thai champion. And if my memory serves correctly, he won the 2000 K1 kickboxing tournament. That was his only big K1 win. So yeah, a lot of MMA, and the reason why all 3 of these MMA fighters are even in this movie is because at the time they were all fighting in Japan. They were all very much Godzilla fans. Actually, if I remember correctly, Gary Goodridge had Godzilla on his shorts for a couple of the fights that he fought in Japan for K1 and for Pride, back when the Pride Fighting Championships existed. So yeah. And I, of course, being a huge MMA fan, I've been a fan literally since day one of mixed martial arts, all the way back to 1993 with the very first UFC event. I've always been a hardcore fan, so I've got that little bit of connection, like a little bit more to love in this movie for myself, to see 3 classic MMA fighters. Ray Sefo may not be MMA, by definition, but he is a kickboxer, so I'll accept it.
Hey, what song are they jamming to in that scene too? Is the fucking theme from Godzilla versus Mega Godzilla? Dun-dun-dun.
Is it? I didn't notice that. That's awesome.
Yeah. The 74. Yeah, the 74 one.
Kid Amara loves MMA fight. I know that Rampage Jackson was actually in Midnight Meat Train too. So it's like, he loves his MMA.
So, yeah. There you go. And as far as the rest of the cast here, I mean, our villain, the controller of Planet X, I mean, what a great over-the-top villain. Like, if you're not into just over-the-top goofy cinema, you're going to look at this guy and think, who the hell would be scared by this?
I love how his hair gets fucking more evil looking too as the movie goes.
Yeah, it almost felt like his eyebrows were changing as the movie went along. Like, they kept getting more and more arched. I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure he was just doing that on purpose with his eyes. But yeah, I mean, Kazuki Kitamura, who, by the way, shares the same last name as our director, Ryuhei Kitamura. Are they related? I don't know. I couldn't find anything about it.
Yeah, me neither. I couldn't find it. Yeah, me same. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, to me, that kind of leads towards that they're not related, just because if something like that would be known, it would be pretty obvious to find it.
Exactly. Yeah, you would think, especially since they did a movie together, it would probably be some fairly public news. But man, and they don't look alike either, so that kind of helps too. So they're probably not like brothers or direct relation. But just what a great performance by this guy. The ladies of the movie, Kumi and Masami, of course, as always, great performances, beautiful. We get a new set of Infant Island twins in this one too, so that's always fun. And of course, if the Infant Island twins are here, a certain flying kaiju is going to make an appearance as well. So that just adds to the spectacle of this one. I love the variety of kaiju that we get. I do agree with Dom that some of the redesigns are maybe not the greatest ever. But I also absolutely agree with Derek that I love Gigan's redesign. They basically turned him into Chainsaw Man. For anybody who watches the anime Chainsaw Man, they basically make him into a 200-foot Chainsaw Man, and I love that. So
yeah, he's like
for whatever it's worth,
more slim. He's kind of got like a xenomorph body too. It's kind of crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Even though ultimately he loses badly in both of the battles that he has in this movie. And in all honesty, Don's point about the fights being a little short and just, Godzilla basically murking these people or these other kaiju, it's a valid point. Like, they definitely could have extended some of these battle sequences, given us more or just better fights, especially with people like King Caesar. Like I said, Gigan, Rodan. I agree with Don. Rodan is always awesome. So, I mean, you can't, he has a very simple design.
You have Adora in this movie for 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, I love Rodan's intro scene. I mean, it rivals the one from King of the Monsters because he basically does the same thing, but to see it in 2004, it just looks so impressive. Yes, it's CGI. Yes, we have to. Yeah, it's a mix of CGI with practical effects, but you knew it was eventually going to happen. Eventually, Toho was going to attempt doing some CGI stuff with Godzilla. Yes, maybe they did it a little early with this one. Maybe they could have waited another, 10 to 15 years because then we get Godzilla -1, who has some of the best Godzilla effects we've ever seen. So obviously, this one's a little bit early in the life cycle of CGI to maybe, get into Godzilla. But yeah, I gotta say, I just enjoy this movie. It's fun. I don't take it seriously. Like I said, I don't really take it as canon. To me, it's a side story. And if I look at it that way, then I can accept it as the fun, ridiculous, nonsensical movie that it is. So yeah, I'm going to leave my general thoughts there.
Yeah, that's pretty much the most of the Millennium movie, because the only ones that are really direct sequels to each other is the two Mecha Godzilla ones, and every other movie is like, oh, Godzilla was born in '54. Let's start it again.
Exactly. But yeah, admittedly, maybe this wasn't the best vehicle for Godzilla's 50th anniversary. He obviously had a much better one
out.
for his. I'm sure it did. I can't imagine this was a huge success anywhere in Japan or in the States. So, I mean, I'm sure it didn't really get a theatrical release in the States, but even, for video rentals and video sales, I can't imagine this is one of the highest selling Godzilla films, Don has a 100% valid point that this is just not a very good film. But if you can get past the fact that it's not a very good film, there is some fun to be had here. Go ahead, Don.
I was going to say, there's at least one video sale with me because I got it for Christmas.
Oh, yeah, and I bought it too. I don't think I got it on VHS, but I did get
I had it on DVD. I have it on Blu-ray. Fuck, I
got the 2-pack. I got the Blu-ray 2-pack with Tokyo SOS and this one, which I'm very happy with because that's a weird double feature.
I was going to say, it really makes no sense because the two Mecha Godzilla ones are canon with each other. They're direct sequels. Like, that should be the 2-pack.
I think the other ones are like GMK or something.
I don't remember. I didn't own all of the 2-packs. Most of the Godzilla movies I owned were those Blu-ray 2-packs. But now I've got that Toho box set from Criterion, so I'm covered there, which is nice. Hopefully, we get a Heisei box set later on down the line with, new reprints, things like that. Lots of special features because Godzilla fans love. Oh, well, I don't know if I need that, but I mean, I would take it. I'm not going to lie. I will absolutely buy it.
Just Don Fry with a sword.
As it should be. All right, let's get into this story a little bit. Like I said, probably one of the more convoluted human stories in a Godzilla movie, but, we'll get through it pretty quick. Ultimately, we've already mentioned aliens. Yes, a race of aliens named Xiliens show up on the Earth. What's that?
The Xiliens from Invasion of the Astro Monsters. Same race.
That's right. Yeah, same race.
Exians. Exians, not Zillions.
Oh, my bad. For some reason, I watched it. Wait, did I watch? No, I didn't watch it in English because it's, oh God. I started to watch this in English and it was painful. So I switched to Japanese. I just restarted the movie and watched it in Japanese.
Especially the fairy's voice. The monster's name is Gigan.
Yeah, the villain, man. Why did they make the villain sound like a gay dude? I just don't understand why.
The guy speaks perfect English. I've seen him speak English in the movie.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense. Let him do his own dub. But yeah, for whatever it's worth, 10 minutes into the English dub, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to stop. So usually I prefer my foreign movies in their original language. It doesn't matter what country it comes from. But obviously, growing up with Godzilla in the 70s and 80s, watching them on TV, they were always dubbed. So that's just what I remember is the dubbed version. So I tend to lean towards the dubs when I watch a Godzilla movie. But yeah, I couldn't even make it through 10 minutes of this one.
It's back when they're just doing like the Hong Kong dubs, and they all sound terrible.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. All right. So, like I said, the race of aliens appears. What happens is a bunch of the kaiju, not counting Godzilla, but a few of the kaiju like rise up and start attacking cities. Rodan attacks New York and, shit like that. And these aliens show up and they basically make the monsters disappear. Like they catch them in their ship. And then they make themselves known to humanity that, we're here, we're friendly. We're not here to start war or anything like that. We're just here to share ideas and blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, it's a Godzilla movie. So we know after a while, it will be exposed that these aliens actually are here to take over. But what's funny is that they're not just here to take over. They're here to turn us into cattle. They literally eat us. They eat humans. And that's pretty gnarly. We don't see it in the movie. I don't know that they would actually consume our flesh or if it's like a life force type thing or whatever the case may be. It would have been nice to see one human get consumed by these people. Yeah, some fancy kombucha or something. I don't know. But yeah, so these aliens come here. They want to, like I said, herd us like cattle so that they can survive, so that their race can survive longer. They come here. Apparently, Godzilla has been frozen in Antarctica so long that they're unaware of Godzilla. Hence that classic line from Don Fry of, "There's two things you don't know about Earth." Actually, I should let Derek say it. He says it better. Go ahead, Derek.
Listen, kid. There's two things you don't know about Earth. The first is me. The second is Godzilla.
I love it. That's a damn good Don Fry. Goddamn.
Hey, I've seen this movie plenty of times, man.
So, of course, the aliens, they threaten humanity. Humanity, obviously, humanity being humanity doesn't like being bullied or pushed around. So eventually, of course, they come up with the idea, or Don Fry comes up with the idea to wake up Godzilla, to thaw him out, which is exactly what they do. They go ahead and thaw him out of the ice in Antarctica. He wakes up and instantly attacks the Gatango because Godzilla remembers that it was the Gatango that basically froze him the last time he was awake. So
yeah, he's pissed.
Obviously, he's very angry. And I will say, I may not be the biggest fan of this total design of Godzilla, but I love this head sculpt. Something about the head sculpt,
it's very
works
cat-like
for me. I love it. The way the ears, I mean, Godzilla doesn't always have, predominant ears, but he does in this one. This is the
first movie since like the original that he actually had ears in.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes total sense then. But yeah, because it's almost striking. Like when he first comes out of the ice and you see him, it's like, or even during the cold open when, they first freeze him, you see it and it's just it's a very different mold. And like I said, I agree with Don that that the body sculpt is maybe a little clunky, doesn't really have that finesse that some of the, more classic designs have. But for whatever it's worth, I do like this head sculpt. So, of course, after they wake up Godzilla systematically starts taking out all the other kaiju in what end up being very quick fights. He ends up fighting Gigan and literally makes his head explode in like one move. Which, of course, that's when we get the Gigan redesign, where the aliens redesign Gigan and they introduce him as the updated Gigan. And then we get, the chainsaw hands, the chainsaw in the chest, just a badass face visor. Like really cool design for Gigan. But even in the rematch, he still loses incredibly quickly.
Yeah, the Mothra of all the monsters.
Exactly. And then I mentioned earlier the American kaiju that's in this one. Well, that was a little bit of a misnomer because, of course, it is Godzilla 98 from the American Godzilla film that we all hate. And in this movie, they call him Zilla. I absolutely love Kazuki's insult when he says, that fish-eating monster is so useless. I fucking love that. They made such a big deal. Yeah, they made such a big deal about Godzilla's diet in the American movie. Like, who gives a rat's ass what he eats? Honestly, he shouldn't eat anything. He's a radiation monster. He eats radiation. He doesn't actually consume food, but whatever. That's a story for another day. But yeah, he absolutely destroys Zilla once again in one move. Literally, Zilla charges him and he just kick flips him over the top. And then just what was that? The Sydney Opera House, right? He basically kick flips him into the Sydney Opera House and then uses it as his atomic breath to explode the whole place, killing Zilla instantly, which of course is, Kitamura's middle finger to the American Godzilla movie. Honestly, I think we all give a middle finger to that movie. Not to say that it's that worst movie ever made, but for a lot of us Godzilla fans,
even the soundtrack tainted. Even the soundtrack, which was the best part of the movie, is tainted now because of Puff Daddy.
Exactly. Oh, that's right. I forgot. I wasn't even thinking about that. Oh, man. But anyway, yeah, like I said, Godzilla just murks all these people. And then Monster X shows up. And, he looks very much like a new kaiju, almost robotic, but almost like a biomech type kaiju. He's got a lot of mechanical parts, but he's also
a Power
got flesh
Rangers
parts.
villain.
He's basically what is it? A Megazord, I think.
Yeah.
Is that what they call them? Yeah. But then after a while, after Godzilla fights him and actually defeats him, he goes through a metamorphosis. And of course, we get the obvious reveal, at least obvious to Godzilla fans, that of course Monster X is King Ghidorah. And we actually get the gold King Ghidorah in this one, which I had forgotten he was in this movie, because I actually have a couple of gold King Ghidorah action figures, and I had forgotten what movie that makes an appearance in. So.
My boy's been juicing too. He's got 4 legs now.
Oh my God, yeah. And he's always been taller than Godzilla, but man, he towers over Godzilla in this movie. Like, I can't believe he actually ends up losing the fight, but as usual, at least that fight does. Yeah, the power of the one. But yeah, the fight at least lasts a little bit longer than the other fights in the movie, but it's still incredibly short. Like, again, for the amount of kaiju action that we want to see in these movies, it's very lacking. And like I said, it's because the human story takes up so many elements of this movie. You've got the aliens, you've got the mutants on Earth.
Then you got fucking Manila driving. Yeah,
you got Manila making an appearance for no reason at all. Being driven around in a pickup truck. Granted, I love seeing Manila anytime I can, but
I actually like his redesign a lot. He doesn't look like the Pillsbury Doughboy anymore.
Oh, that's valid. I will absolutely go with that. Definitely. A nice variety of kaiju in this one. I haven't even named everybody that's in it, but I probably will forget at least one or two since there are so many.
By the way, Kumanga's a fucking asshole. He's just in Arizona, just like, fuck this trailer.
Oh man, so good. Oh man. And then of course, we get our inevitable ending where the humans are able to overtake the aliens, and our hero member of the M squad, or what was it, the M unit, our main character is able to defeat the controller of Planet X. Of course,
dude, that battle was more engaging than a lot of the monster battles. Like that dude was using.
It really is. I really wish Kitamura took the care with the kaiju fights that he took with the martial arts fights, because the human fights in here are actually great. They're not like the best ever by any stretch. It's not like it's Bruce Lee, but some high quality fighting in these films, and I'm very happy with that. At least I do wish that he would have taken a little bit more care with the kaiju fights.
Plus, we get like the coolest part of these movies. We get some cool cameos from like older Godzilla actors. Like we got Kuma Mizui in this, but who I haven't seen since fucking like the 70s. So that was crazy. But then we got Kenji Sahara in like a small role, and then Kara Takarada plays the fucking prime minister.
Yeah, really, really good cast, solid cast. As we've all already said, This movie's not the best written. The story's not exactly the most compelling for a Godzilla movie. But as I've already also said, if you can just accept the fact that this is an over-the-top, goofy Godzilla movie, I think you can enjoy it. It's kind of like the same turn I made with Megalon. You know, I hated Megalon the first time I saw it. I appreciated its kind of over-the-top, goofy, almost like a kid's movie. Like, you know, Godzilla versus Megalon's basically a kid's film. And I'm okay with that. It took me some time to kind of grow into that opinion, but I'm okay with it now. So yeah, I mean, some great martial arts action, some subpar kaiju action, but overall, for a 2-hour film, I had a good time watching it. I don't really feel like it's a 2-hour movie as I'm watching it because I am so engaged in the human story, mostly because of Don Fry, of course, because I do absolutely adore Don Fry, both from his MMA days and from his acting days. And he is still acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just doing like very, very indie stuff. So it's not like you're really going to see him in anything.
Dude,
unless
if Don Fry just comes in Godzilla X Kong Supernova, that would be like fucking amazing.
Oh, that would be one of the greatest cameos ever. Shit, that would be Bruce Willis at the end of Split. You know, I mean,
he has a scene with like Sam Neill.
I'm okay with that. So yeah, there you go. It's like I said, I simplified the story. There's definitely more twists and turns than I went into. They definitely get more into the mutant storyline in the movie than I did. They get more into the aliens because, there is a little bit of a mutiny with the aliens because the controller of Planet X isn't the leader when the aliens first arrive.
I love that turn too. He's like, fuck this dude.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely one of the better turns. Like, it was so ruthless and just like he just didn't give a shit at all. He's like, all right, I'm done playing.
I'm in control
and
now.
Just shoots him in the head. Exactly. So a great heel turn. And like I said, one of the better human, better in quotations, because obviously there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, but quote unquote, one of the better human villains for a Godzilla movie, at least in my personal opinion. I definitely dig on this. So
yeah,
let's bring Don in here. He's been pretty quiet. Talk to us about you've already talked to us about some of the designs that you didn't really like in this movie. I mean, were there any redesigns that you actually enjoyed in this one?
I mean, Gigan's pretty easy. I don't know why. I've always really enjoyed the battle with the Bara because that's the one where it's the mutants battling him themselves. So it's one of the only times where humanity actually defeats the monster. Mm-hmm. It's the first scene where we get the mutants sent out to battle against the creatures, and it takes place in like some oil refinery or some kind of industrial complex or something. And we get the big fight scene there where, they're flipping and flying all over the place and they're using their super guns and blasting parts of them away. And, I've always really liked that sequence. So that one's always been something that I've always kind of really enjoyed. I mean, the others, they're really just not on screen all that long to really get like a sense of who they are. I mean, Mothra kind of looks like Mothra. The idea is there. I mean, I like the idea of what they're trying to do with it, but I've always preferred if we're going for like the modern Ghidorah looks, I've always preferred Death Ghidorah from is it
Rebirth of Mothra?
I always forget if it's that one or if it's the third one.
Because I know there's like two like Ghidorahs in that series.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to remember because I haven't seen either one in long enough to remember. I think it's the one that I'm talking about is the third one. I'm trying to think of the name, but I keep going to Death Ghidorah for some reason.
Because this one has 4 legs like Death Ghidorah too.
Yeah, like it's a 2-person suit. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's like one of the old 2-person Ultraman suits. The Ghidorah that I'm talking about specifically is in Rebirth of Mothra 3. But
yeah, he's like Victor Salva. He's like stealing children and shit.
Well, besides that, but I'm just saying is that for modern Ghidorah looks, I'm talking like the 91 version, the GMK version, or this one. The one that I'm talking about is in Rebirth of Mothra 3.
Yeah, it's a great movie, actually.
Like I'm saying, I don't remember if that's the one that has Death Ghidorah, or if that's the first Rebirth of Mothra movie, because they both have Ghidorah in it. But like I'm saying, the one that I like the most out of the recent Ghidorahs is Rebirth of Mothra 3.
Mhm.
Like I said, yeah, most of the monsters are just not on screen long enough to really like dive in. I mean, Ghidorah is on screen for
5
10
seconds. Yeah,
for like 5-10 seconds.
Yeah.
Kamacuras gets, one sequence and, it dies. Kumonga is pretty much dispatched, and, as soon as he arrives.
Yeah, because he was just fucking with trailers in Arizona.
Exactly, yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
And I was going to say, yeah, there's just not enough time to get to any of them.
No, that's valid. Absolutely. Like I said, they concentrate so much on the human story here that, we've already kind of pointed it out multiple times that, the kaiju action does suffer because of it. Though I gotta say, just to really put a light on how over the top some of the fight sequences are here, not only do we get wrestling moves in some of these fights, we get soccer moves. There's fucking soccer moves.
Using Anguirus as a fucking soccer ball, turn to the Shaolin soccer all of a sudden.
Exactly. I'm sorry. It's silly as shit. I will absolutely admit it, but it still puts a smile on my face because, like I said, a movie like this, I'm not going to take too seriously. I'm not going to go into this like I'm going into Godzilla -1. Not at all. When I go into those rewatches, I know I'm going to get depressed. I'm going to get sad, blah, blah, blah. But with, a Final Wars rewatch, it's always just fun, and and Don Fry. So I mean, what else? What else needs to be said? Really,
fun fact: the opening title credit sequence is the same guy who does like all the MonsterVerse movies title sequences.
Oh, nice, very cool.
They actually picked them up.
I will say
this movie.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I will say that this movie definitely, for those of you who actually watch Ryuhei Kitamura movies, this movie feels like a Ryuhei movie. Yeah. Like thinking back to stuff like Versus and his early stuff, it literally it's got his DNA all over it. So it's still solidly might be the wrong adjective. It's still a Godzilla film, but it definitely has Ryuhei's DNA all over it. And I'm good with it because I love that director. I think Ryuhei Kitamura. I've not watched a bad Ryuhei movie yet. Well, let me rephrase that because a lot of people would probably say Final Wars is a bad Ryuhei movie. I've not watched a Kitamura. Yeah. I've never seen a Kitamura movie that I didn't at least partially enjoy. And Final Wars is no different. It is not the best Godzilla movie. It is not the best Kitamura movie. It's not, it's not even the best Godzilla movie of the 2-year span of 2003 to 2004, which is, too bad. But, if you can accept it, if you can just kind of turn your brain off, don't think about the silliness too much. Hell, have a couple of beers before you watch the movie. That might help a little bit. Who knows?
Take 5 gummies.
There you go. If you partake in any...
Keith Emerson.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much all I have for this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my co-host to see if there's anything they'd like to add before we get out of here. So let's go ahead and start with the man who picked the movie, Mr. Derek B. Any final thoughts on Final Wars?
One day, I'll put him back in the ice. I put him there before.
Oh, perfect. You got to end with a Don Fry quote. Hell, I might actually put a couple in this episode. His voice is so spectacular. All right. Don, any final thoughts on Godzilla Final Wars before we get out of here?
Nah, I've pretty much said my piece on it.
All right. So there you go, folks. We're kind of split here. A couple of us enjoy the crazy silliness, and, one of us not a big fan of the film, but hey, all opinions are valid. Hey, so what do you think of Godzilla Final Wars? Let us know on the socials, hit us up on Facebook, or we actually do have a Twitter, No More Room in Hell Creature Comforts Twitter. I don't really talk about it too much because I almost never check it. But I do get notifications if I get anything on there. So if you're still on Twitter, also known as X, and, go ahead and look up No More Room in Hell Hell Creature Comforts and join the conversation. Let us know what you thought of Final Wars and let us know what we missed. Obviously, and we're not here spending 3 hours, breaking down the film and doing different dissertations on the themes and the underlying messages of the film. These are just fun films to us that we want to talk about periodically. But if, like I said, if you're a gigantic fan or a gigantic hater of Final Wars, definitely hit us up and let us know why. So that's going to do it for episode 46, my friends. Thank you once again for joining us. It's been our absolute pleasure to once again jump into the world of Toho to talk about our boy Big G. So on behalf of Mr. Derek B. and Mr. Don Anelli, I am Mr. Venom saying thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you in February for I don't know what. I don't even know whose pick it is. So once we figure out whose pick,
Final Wars.
I think it's mine.
Awesome. All right. So
I think it's mine.
Cool. All right. So we'll figure out what the movie is in the coming weeks. As we record this, it's already the end of January, so I'm going to try my hardest to get this episode out before January 31st, but I may be a little late, so apologies there to our regular listeners. But otherwise, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next month for episode 47 of Creature Comforts. Let's say goodbye to the folks.
Later.
Goodbye.
Take care of those mustaches, folks, and we'll see you next month.
See, that was fun.
Listen, kid. There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.